The first thing Elena registered was the sound of her own heartbeat, wild and uneven, like the wings of a trapped bird inside her chest. The second was Clara's scream, cut off halfway as the shadows swallowed them whole. For one timeless moment, there was no ground, no ceiling, only an abyss of cold that gnawed at their skin. Elena tightened her grip around Clara's waist, refusing to let go. Her training, her years of exorcisms and restless nights facing the supernatural, told her that if she released Clara now, she might never find her again. Elena! Clara's voice was raw, terrified, but alive. That single syllable fueled Elena's resolve. The blackness was alive. It whispered, taunted, pressed against their bodies like oily water. And, through it all, the entity's voice rang, jagged and unholy. She is mine. No, Elena growled, pulling Clara tighter. She is not yours. Then, with a surge of desperate will, Elena shoved the iron pendant she always carried, an heirloom, etched with wards, into the heart of the shadow. The darkness recoiled with a shriek that rattled their bones. Light cracked open the void, and suddenly they were falling down, down, until the wooden floor of the Blackthorn mansion slammed back beneath their bodies. They landed hard in the grand foyer, coughing, gasping. The candles had extinguished. The walls dripped with shadow, and the air reeked of rot. The house was awake and furious. Elena, Clara's trembling hand found hers. We can't stay. Elena didn't need telling twice. She dragged Clara to her feet. The front door loomed at the end of the hallway, swollen with age, but somehow pulsing with resistance, as if the house itself would rather die than let them escape. The moment they ran, the house roared. Doors banged open, portraits twisted to watch them, and a tide of shadows chased at their heels. Elena, it's closing! Clara cried as the door's heavy iron hinges groaned, sealing shut. Not this time. Elena threw herself forward, slamming her shoulder into the wood, chanting words in Latin that scorched her throat. Clara pressed beside her, adding her own strength though she was trembling with fear. Together they forced the door open a fraction, enough for a knife of moonlight to cut through the dark. And then, with a violent heave, they burst out into the storm. Cold rain lashed their faces as they stumbled into the overgrown front yard. Behind them, the house howled, its windows rattling with rage. But Elena didn't look back. She grabbed Clara's hand and ran down the gravel drive, through the iron gates that screeched like beasts as they forced them open, until at last they collapsed onto the muddy road beyond the estate. For a long while, neither spoke. The storm drenched them, their lungs burned, their bodies ached. But the silence was alive, not just relief, but something more fragile, more dangerous. Clara's eyes, wide and glistening in the moonlight, met Elena's. You didn't let me go. I never will, Elena whispered before she could stop herself. The storm hushed for one heartbeat, as if the world itself had paused to acknowledge the vow. But then, from deep within the house behind them, a sound carried on the wind, low, guttural, promising, "You cannot run forever." The haunting had followed them out. The battle was far from over. The rain had thinned by the time Elena and Clara staggered into the narrow village road, but their clothes clung to their bodies, their breaths still ragged with the memory of the house's grip. Behind them, the Blackthorn estate loomed, silent now, its windows dull, its door shut as though nothing had happened. Yet Elena could feel its hunger stretching, reaching, even across the distance. They needed shelter. The small inn at the edge of the village was still lit, its lanterns swaying in the damp wind. Elena half-led, half-carried Clara inside. The old woman behind the desk barely blinked at their state, mud smeared, trembling, rain-soaked, before handing over a key with a muttered, "Top floor, last door. The storm's got others too. Best rest." Elena murmured thanks, guiding Clara up the creaking staircase. Every step groaned under their weight. Clara leaned into her, her body radiating exhaustion, and something else, an ache, a tremor. That wasn't just fear. Inside the room, the walls were low and slanted with the roof's angle. A single bed. A wooden chair. A basin of water. It was humble, but it was safe, or safer than where they'd been. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, her hair dripping in dark ropes, her eyes unfocused. Elena knelt in front of her, hands firm on her knees. "Clara, look at me." Slowly, Clara did. Her lips parted, her breath uneven. "We didn't escape it, did we?" Elena hesitated. "We escaped the house. That's more than most ever do. But it's bound to us now. It tasted our fear. It won't let go easily." Clara shivered, curling her arms around herself. For a moment, she looked younger, fragile. Elena's chest tightened with something she wasn't ready to name. She reached for the wool blanket folded at the bed's foot and draped it over Clara's shoulders, tucking it in carefully. The touch lingered. "Elena," Clara's voice was soft, but edged with something raw. "When we were inside, when it had us, I heard something. Not just the entity. Something else." "What did you hear?" Clara hesitated, eyes darting away. "It wasn't a voice exactly. More like a memory. Flashes. A garden. A river." And she swallowed. "You. Or someone who felt like you. But not here. Not now." Elena's fingers froze against the blanket. Slowly, she drew back. "Clara, you shouldn't." "No, listen." Clara's hand caught hers, firm, shaking. "Elena," Clara's voice was soft, but edged with something raw. "When we were inside, when it had us, I heard something. Not just the entity. Something else." "What did you hear?" Clara hesitated, eyes darting away. "It wasn't a voice exactly. More like a memory. Flashes. A garden. A river." And she swallowed. "You. Or someone who felt like you. But not here. Not now." Elena's fingers froze against the blanket. Slowly, she drew back. "Clara, you shouldn't." "No, listen." Clara's hand caught hers, firm, shaking. "It wasn't the first time we've met. I felt it, Elena. Like we've done this before. Maybe not the house, but the fight. You and me against it. Across lifetimes." Elena's throat went dry. She'd spent years studying the cycles of hauntings, the way certain souls became tethered to forces beyond their control. But she had never considered herself part of such a cycle. And yet, the entity had followed them here. Elena shut the door hard, locking it, her pulse hammering. Clara's eyes searched hers when she turned back, fear and determination warring in her expression. "It's not giving us a choice anymore," Clara whispered. "No," Elena said, sliding down onto the bed beside her. "But this time, we won't just survive. We'll fight." And as she spoke, she realized something terrifyingly undeniable. The fight wasn't just against the entity. It was against time itself, against fate. Against the pull that had always drawn her and Clara together, lifetime after lifetime. And if they lost, this cycle would never end. The first night away from Blackthorn House should have brought peace. They had escaped bruised, shaken, but alive. Yet when Clara finally drifted into sleep beside Elena, peace did not come. It began as a whisper, soft as a lover's breath against her ear. "You cannot run from me."